last one felt more empty nester / senior, and that's just my opinion. I'm not going to go ask them to change it, but our fall market is much more heavy empty nester 55 plus, and I felt like that commercial was like almost a summer spot. I would have said that there. I'm not going to ask to change it, but I'm just making that comment. We have a motion on the floor, so the motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion? The motion is to approve these spots with one change. That change is taking out the tractor and putting in a lake shot, right?
Sure.
And we're not going to come back and vote on it again.
We should need to with that motion.
Right. And if you don't agree with his motion, you vote no. If you agree with it, you vote yes.
All right, devil's advocate, what if there isn't fall lake scene? We don't want to spend it on that either. If there isn't something.
Well, there is lake scenes, and they
Paul.
also brought up that they
Paul.
could change color in the trees before.
You bring up a great point though, man, because I feel like I've heard the chamber team talk about this very specifically about the absence of fall specific lake shots. So I don't want that to be lost on anybody. Like, since you're asking the question, it's a fair question. I don't know if the chamber team wants to comment on it again, but it seems like we can get there, but it may not be a fall voting scene that meets the resolution requirements.
I have a concern that it could include a vessel that you are not in
Okay.
favor of, a kayak. And contrary to popular opinion, kayaking does generate funds. I know it isn't a boat rental, but the people who are of that age renting a kayak, I can give you a great story of my kayak experience on Sunday with a family of 4 that happened to be renting a kayak in front of me, whose children didn't have water shoes, so they got water shoes. Then the dad decided he wanted a pair of water shoes, so he bought water shoes. And then the dad decided he really should have a pair of swimming trunks on, so he bought a pair of swimming trunks. And then they realized that they didn't have enough bottles of water, so they bought bottled water. And their tally was $300. Then, as we're sitting on the bus going to where they're dropping the kayaks off to launch from, they proceeded to tell the driver where they were from. They drove 7 hours to come to Branson. They didn't want to hang out in downtown or on the strip because it reminded them too much of Gatlinburg. They wanted to be in the outer areas where they could be out in nature. So they rented kayaks. When asked where they were staying, they said they were camping so they could spend their money on activities, doing things. They were going to Silver Dollar City. Then they were going to Fritz's Adventure Park. All of the things, their trip, just in the math that I was doing, was thousands of dollars. A kayak for a few seconds in a fall spot would be really appealing. Would that be suitable to this group?
But, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to take a vote. We've had good, healthy discussion. Unless you have anything else new to add, I'm taking the vote. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on. Thank you for the flexibility. Okay, mission statement work session update. We met for probably about 2 hours yesterday in the evening. It was mentioned John Baltus came in. Alex, I'm going to put you on the spot because you made a comment about it. And could you share that with the group about how you felt about that?
Yeah,
Absolutely, I could. So in my short service so far outside of the military, yesterday was the most productive 52-minute professional development I've had in a very long time. So I'm grateful for the team recognizing that we're holding ourselves to a higher standard. John Baltus has a huge resume, a heart of service, and a proven track record. So getting him to sit down and talk about board service, it kind of empowered us to say, hey, we want to do this for the district. And then maybe our other boards throughout the area should really consider, stepping up to the plate and looking at this type of training as well. So it wasn't lost on me at all. There were some huge nuggets that were shared in such a short period of time. So I appreciate you leading that charge.
So that was the first part of the meeting. The second part, we talked a lot about mission, vision, and we brainstormed. I've got a bunch of flip charts where people were throwing out different ideas. And I think our intent is that we come up actually with a mission statement, a vision statement. It's easy for everybody to remember. And so we'll probably have some continued special meetings on that. I think we want to try and do that outside of this meeting, just because this meeting's typically very full. But I thought it was a good first day on that, and so we'll keep moving forward on that. And so probably you'll get an email at some point saying, "Hey, can you meet at a separate time to just do this?" Anybody have any questions or additional comments? That I know not everybody was there, but we had a quorum, so. Okay, records retention policy review and approval. I'm going to turn this over to Angela, because if you read all that, it was a long document and it was boring. That's all I'm going to say.
It's really boring. Kate pulled the minimum required retentions, and I had a couple of comments back to you all on my weekly report about things that I would probably not go with. They were the accounts payable, the banking records, and another item. All of those have changed over the years. The state now requires minimum retention of 1 year or until completion of audit. I think that the board ought to consider having a longer retention on those, because those are our business records. 5 years has been the standard for a long time in public bodies, and that would be one change that I would think we probably ought to consider as far as the retention schedule goes. The rest of it's pretty standard. Don't have a lot of the records that are in here, so.
Yeah, there was something about telephone.
Telephone logs.
I'm
Yeah.
like, who does a telephone?
Well, not anymore.
Yeah, the White House. We're not the White House. Like, but I'm guessing you wouldn't necessarily have to do that unless you were already doing it.
Right, you don't have to create a record, but if you have this record, this is the way it will be treated.
So,
Chris,
yes.
follow up on Angela's point. I agree with 5 years. 2 reasons for that. Number one, just because the auditor says it's fine, doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else will say it's fine. Also, flip that around. If you think after discovery at some point within 5 years that someone has misspent or misreceived money from you, how are you going to prove it if you didn't keep the records? With me there?
Mhm.
So whether or not we're a plaintiff or a defendant, God forbid, either way, we want to have it for 5 years. And I think 5 years is safer than more. My opinion.
Angela, do you know specifically on what page or? Because there's a lot of pages here.
So some of these records are called different things than I would call them. Let's see.
I guess the question is, could we pass this with just saying we're changing?
We'll find it.
Change.
Page 12 starts financial records. So you have accounts payable on 13 and accounts receivable on 14 and banking and investment records, receipts,
Some of these you have to just keep forever.
some things.
Yes. So we're the accounts payable records and accounts receivable records. Is that what you're recommending, that we just a minimum of 5 years?
Banking and investment records as well.
Yeah.
Probably payroll, expense reimbursements.
So could we just make a motion that we adopt this with the changing 5 years, the things she just mentioned?
If you do digital and hard copy or on the financial, or just like so many years of the hard copy and then the rest can be on a file. Or you say both for 5. I carried both for 5, then 7 on digital.
Our financials are actually stored permanently with minutes, is what the tradition has been. And I don't see any reason to change that. And as far as in a file cabinet, 5 years off.
Do we retain digital records on the server or do we rent space in the cloud?
It all lives on the laptop. Not really the greatest place.
Let's keep the limit the same. 5, yeah, well, 5 for paper and 7 for digital.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
But 5 for paper and 7 for digital.
Right, on the items she said, I can't tell you what they all were, but
I think we can call them financial.
financial. Okay, does someone want to make a motion to that effect? Okay,
Second.
Michelle has made the motion. There's a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Okay, lot of stuff to talk. Holy cow. Trademark update. This has been on the old business for a very long time, and so I'm excited to see that it's here. If you'll remember, the reason we even had to do this is because the past agreement actually had the chamber president sign it versus TCED president or whoever signed it. And so we said, we got to redo this. And so I think that was the whole impetus behind this. Of course, it appears to me somebody got a hold of this and made some changes. I did not see any material issues. I guess I'd have our attorney make any comments that would be applicable to this.
This is being discussed between council for us and with the city of Branson. And we've reached out several times to try and get an answer back on some of this. I don't want to say something that's either premature or is going to go to state. What she's basically prepared looks fine to me. It is in process of being completed. But what I think she's done.
So is it? Because I was thinking since it was on here, we should approve this. Are you saying that we should wait or should we go?
Let's go ahead and approve it.
We should go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was thinking. Because this isn't that, I don't feel like it should be that complicated. But,
It should not be.
It's because Jeff signed it.
Jeff signed the agreement. He should. I don't know how that happened. That was before, don't ask me that one. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve this and then let our attorneys go back to getting the city to sign it if they haven't. So second, first and second. You did first, he did. Okay, Dennis,
Yes.
Sue. Okay, any more discussion?
Just to clarify, the language you used, if I heard you correctly, was it's still in discussions and potentially going stagnant. Does that mean that we expect to approve something that's not going to be?
No, if Branson were to come back and say, we have to have this, and this, and if it's different, we'll come back with it.
Okay.
But Kate's gonna fight that.
So the motion is based off of what we have.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, next item, PR update. I'm gonna turn that over to CBB. Heather.
So I don't believe the PR report is normally on the TCED board agenda, so I'm not quite sure what you all would like to hear, but we did share a PR report in the MOC meeting this morning, talking about the amount of coverage that we received, and I believe you all received a copy of that document as well. We shared the coverage summary of how many mentions we had, how many impressions, the AVE or advertising value equivalency, as well as links to some of the key stories that we worked on. And that included our press release that we sent out for the inaugural Rally Point Branson event that was held over Memorial Day weekend. And I'm available for questions if you have any.
So we bought this package of press releases. We have like a schedule on all of them that are going out, or how do you do, I guess, how does that?
Well, we need to have press releases to send them out. So as soon as we have news available or a partner sends in a press release for us to share, absolutely. And we used one of them for the Rally Point Branson press release, which was why it was picked up with 18 million impressions, 6 states and 87 mentions. So it's available. We've made it available for partners who have big news, and we've got press release newswire distribution ready for if a business in a destination has some really big news to share, we'd be more than happy to send out a release. It's gotta be newsworthy. It can't just be regular happenings. It's gotta be newsworthy. So we'll work with any business who has something to contribute.
Here, is there someone, because of course, I know you kind of incorporated Lynn's role into your role. Is there other people on the PR team, or is it just you?
Jada Twitchell is our PR manager.
Okay. So everybody knows. Any other questions on PR? Okay, moving on, the Kansas City Chiefs update.
We also talked about that this morning in our MOC meeting with some updates about what is happening with the Chiefs and some results of our work with them, how many minutes our logo has been shown on screen at the stadium, and the Wakefield data, which will be shared with you all. And after this meeting, Kirk and I received that this week, so we can share that with the group. And we're just going to really embrace it this season. We've got some plans working with the Chiefs directly to really show ROI and make sure that we're putting our best foot forward for the investment of that partnership for this next season.
Kirk, are you commenting on Chiefs?
I can, if you'd like.
Yep,
If you're not satisfied, happy to add in. The data that they sent back to us, we have parameters that we bought into the agreement, and they exceeded them on a lot of levels. The LED that wraps the stadium, the ribbon board, as they call it, contractually, they owe us a minute a game. At each home game, we received 1 minute and 52 seconds. The upper LED, which is contractually owned per game at 2 minutes, we received 19 minutes and 58 seconds, almost 20 minutes each game with the Branson logo staring at the rabid Chiefs fans. The total of 3 hours and 46 minutes of additional runtime. We had 800,000 plus fans attended games in this past season. The Branson Lakes area social content, the NFL drafted nearly 16 million impressions, over 3 million video views, 447,000 engagements across all Chiefs social media channels as the official vacation destination. The recent Chiefs cheerleaders trip to Branson content featured the Chiefs cheer social account, featured the photos and videos of the cheerleaders expressing the enjoyment of Branson. That was a nice story that they added in. The content featured 4 Instagram stories, 2 reels, 2 photo carousels. The content generated 237,878 impressions, 109 466 video views, and 11,247 interactions. The Wakefield study, just a couple of highlights there, 35.5% difference in the fans that recalled the Branson Lakes area. That's a big jump from last year. And the closest competitor, we were at 35.5%. The closest competitor was Pigeon Forge, Tennessee at 2.2%. 42.5% lift in preference of fans that are aware of the Branson Lakes area Chiefs partnership. Fans that are aware of the partnership preferred Branson Lakes area to 42.5% more than other vacation destinations as compared to fans who are aware of the partnership. Fans that are aware of the partnership, 36.3% higher consideration for visiting the Branson Lakes area and future vacations down the road. Immediate action for the items for 2025 season, determining a date for the Chiefs rally held in Branson, and Heather's on top of that based on what's going on here for Labor Day, moving that off to get it into another area that could use a little lift. Once the date's confirmed, the co-promotion could be one of those press releases and working hand in hand. So the Chiefs tell the story, not just our PR team, and what we stressed with our last meeting when we went up there. Identifying 2 Chiefs home games. I'm going to ramp up, get on the bigger stage, take live music, singers, talent families, however, put a call out for it where they can actually go and perform inside the Ford Chiefs tailgate, which is a major improvement over just having people stop by the booth, take a picture. The van will still be there. We still have the ability to market, hand out our branded items, and engage with former ambassador Chiefs on signing autographs. We will also determine what performers will be taken up there based on who can be available for those Sunday games, Monday night games, Thursday games. There's a Christmas game last year. I mean, it's just not an easy schedule to line up with somebody here, but we'll be diligent in that. Key opportunities for success during the 2025 season. The Chiefs rally in Branson, they're focused on the attention, the efforts into making a successful event will provide a clear visual and visitor traffic that is driven to Branson due to the Chiefs' interest and fandom. And number 2, focusing content on highlighting Chiefs affiliated individuals, meaning the experiences that the Chiefs are having. They're going to, at Heather's request, start telling more of the story from their side to engage their larger audience, because so much of it is some of them want to see the Branson content, but some of them just only want Chiefs content, which is a higher ratio, which is above 70%. The Chiefs rally and Chiefs cheer trip to Branson, and then using Chiefs partnership to help promote and highlight Branson's initiatives around the 250th anniversary throughout the United States. Laura Krug will be here for Ladies Who Launch. It'll be held Pam's on the panel with that, with the CMO. She's one of the most powerful women in the NFL. Handles the Chiefs branding. She will be here. Cindy gave us that great suggestion a year ago, and it's finally come to fruition. Didn't want to leave you good-looking people out over here. And this will make an engagement for her, telling her story as a chief executive from her perspective, why we are the official vacation destination. This has never happened. Michelle, they don't want to lose us, and they've come full force with this effort this year. It's the most energy we've had out of them since we lost Chris and we lost Kim, our team that originally put this all together for us, Dennis. We have a new agent in our corner, and supposedly Kellen fights for the sponsor at the table around the marketing in Chiefs Arrowhead meetings across the board. So I'm very turned back up about this in a positive light, where they have more energy than I thought they were originally putting into it, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm really looking forward to the engagement with Heather being here year round to be involved in it. So there's a lot more with it. So you're going to get this link. I can't even send it to you in a deck. I mean, it is stupid long. But if you're an information nerd like I am and you like data, you're going to enjoy this. It's going to show you a comparison of 2 other vacation destinations where we sit. It's going to give you the layout. Wakefield is the 16 team. They deal with 16 billionaires in the NFL. Of the 32 teams, they do the data research for 16 of the NFL teams. So they handle the Chiefs for us. So Mark Donovan, the president of the club, came into the meeting and expressed his interest in helping Hallmark come down here and shoot a Christmas movie for us, which I thought was kind of cool. And then Chris, who used to work for the Chiefs, worked for Hallmark, so they have some synergy going on. And he thought it'd be a really nice, natural approach to film a Christmas movie from his mouth. Sorry for
A lot of stuff.
lengthy period. Yes, sir.
No, it's good.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of energy,
is
a lot of effort. So
Can either one of you talk to the activation fund that we have with them? How did we use that this year? The 87.5.
How all dollars were spent.
But yeah, because we have that in like a pool.
Yeah. You want to go back and pull it and send it?
Yeah, I'll need to go back. I wasn't prepared to.
Yeah.
And then I think, and I know this next year we have even more impressions. Heather got that bumped up, I believe. And so it'd be interesting, and I may have missed it, what you just said, is, what kind of conversion did we get on all of that? The other question I would ask while we're talking about Chiefs is, we just saw these commercials. And so my question is on the commercials that are going to be airing in Kansas City, are we going to have at the end the official logo? Because obviously we're paying for that. So does that show up anywhere, or does it not show up? Or
On the things that we do specifically towards chiefs, it is on chiefs campaign that we run with them. But not our general, not the general spots.
So an ad that shows up in Kansas City, but can show the,
No. I haven't heard of that being a request before.
so that may
When
be,
it comes to chiefs specific marketing that we're doing, then there is chiefs alongside the Branson logo. In our general marketing
There
efforts,
was
we-
something about TV ads that we could,
yeah, it's a restriction in our,
I thought it was.
well, on TV, we can't do it. We couldn't do it like in Dallas. But
No, we can't. I don't think we can do it on TV at all.
there are specific
We'll check it.
specific parameters.
Let's check in,
around
take
that.
it back to you.
And if, again, if this is a request, this is the first time I'm hearing of a request to have Chiefs logo running on spots in our general campaign in a specific market. So we would need some clarification on that as well, please.
and I know, well, at one point, the city was running commercial specific. So, and I don't know that they're doing that now, but we did have that. So I think we need to go back and revisit that.
Got it.
And, you know, we are in this for technically another year unless something would change, but, there's enough, you know, and so we need to be ahead of the game on this. So I think let's put the to-do items there would be to, let's see how the activation fund was used in previous season. And then I think it would be good if we could see what those emails look like that went out, that were part of the program as well. The other thing that I did notice is our agreement with the city of Branson. And I know at one time there was a team working on this, but when I look at that city of Branson agreement, it really has a lot of this being not the TCE deciding, but it's a joint effort between the city. And so I think we need to probably just reconstitute that small group. I think it's 2 people from the city of Branson, 2 from our group, plus the CVB. And just make sure we're all on the same page and get ahead of the game on some of this stuff. So we're spending a lot of money on it. It looks like in year 3 it goes up a little bit too. Not a lot, but it does go up. They got some increases. And that's not including the Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, any other comments, questions?
Yeah, Kurt. You made a comment earlier, and I didn't know if I understood it, and it was when I showed up at the end of the meeting. You said there's how many major sponsors to the 70? What were you?
Yeah, when we
and
started,
We're ranked where in that now?
yeah, when we started, there were 78 of us. And I don't know where, I just went on that agreement.
Okay.
And I asked, are we 79? Are we being ignored? And that woke them up a bit. And I was very polite, wasn't I, Heather? Okay. I look like a bouncer. I just don't carry my weapon to meeting like you do. But I asked, where do we sit? So he came back to me, I think it was a day later, and he said, you're middle and up. He said, you're a highly rated partner with this organization. I said, okay, we're looking forward to that treatment because, somewhat you get a little ignored, and that's a big thing for us. So I was very, very blunt about it, saying, hey, here's where we'd like to have more energy from you to us, not just us doing all the work on this. So it was refreshing to hear that. And I think they heard our call. So hope and energy and transparency and accountability to it for sure.
Cindy, make it brief.
It will be. On the activation fund, the way that's set up is we can use it anywhere as long as it's got the official logo. However, the billing goes to the chiefs. So that could be where some of the confusion is because we don't get the invoices sent to the chiefs.
We're very aware of that and we work with the chiefs and are aware of what the activation fund is being used for. We just wasn't prepared to
Yeah.
report on it
Okay.
today.
Awesome. Board members, any other questions or comments on chiefs? And just so you guys do know, we did modify the agreement, and we have until January 15th of 2026 to make a determination about whether we renew it or not. If you remember, that was in November previously, so now we have a little more time, which is a good thing. So, but it will affect next year's budget regardless somewhat whether we would decide to continue after that or not. So, okay, I am moving on to new business. Oh, mail retention, that's old business. Thank you, Angela. So does the staff want to report anything on that?
Alex had suggested we set up a separate email account just for email records, conversations between the quorum of board members, or, for example, when I send out the board packets, that should all be retained in one location. And I think that's a good idea. Just have to be sure we have adequate storage and backup possibilities on that. We can run it as records at blackset.com. Be a couple $100 a year for the additional email address.
But I highly recommend that for protection.
Yes.
Patrick has advised me on that
Yes.
since he got in the party. And anytime you all email each other, we got to cover you. We got to have it. We're the group on record here. We are held responsible for it. So we would love to add what I would call a official collective email address that we could come up with, which would be easy to remember. And then once you hit it a couple times, it's going to stay there. So if you would put out an email, then boom, it'd be right there with it. And that way, Angela and I are covered, and the board of directors is covered when sunshine law does come across. That'd be a simple way to handle it.
Email is much easier to store than text message. Do not text. Too hard to keep.
You're talking about quorum. Do not text a quorum.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, I would like to entertain someone to make a motion to this effect. That way we have it on record and we do it.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we adopt using a custodian of records email for repository of official district communications.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And just an important point of clarification. Thank you for bringing it up. I brought it up because we don't really have a choice. It's the law, it's the sunshine law. The matter of which we do have a choice on is how we're going about it. And so I appreciate that we're being compliant with the sunshine law and then taking action accordingly.
So, other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so we'll have the staff get that implemented, tell us the email to use, and when you're sending to a quorum, we'll need to have this email address in that email. Okay? Let's try and get that done as soon as possible. Okay, can I move to new business now? Okay. Recommendation from FOC for the 2025 audit agreed upon procedures approval. Over the last couple of years, we've made changes to this. There was no recommended changes, so we are asking for approval of the same document that we had in 2024. The only thing I would say is we probably have to update some of those dates that say 24 to 25. And then the other thing we had talked about was the months that we would not necessarily specify the months at this point in time, if I remember correctly, because we've had the same months, so we may change the months up. So, a good assessment?
Good.
Yep. So just need a motion to accept that recommendation from FOC. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Next item, recommendation from FOC for the 2026 marketing budget estimate. You got an updated in your email. And I did print out copies in case somebody didn't print out.
I gave.
Oh, you gave them one also. Okay. So in this, you have 0%, 3%, and 5%. And then 2.5%. Now, when FOC looked at this, we had some different figures in there as it related to some of the Branson TIFs. And since then, we have learned that we're not going to get that money, if I understand correctly, in 26. So, but they have been emailed this, they're aware of that. And so their recommendation was to do 2.5%. And so this is an initial number. And so we use this to give to the CVB so that they can put the marketing plan together. Obviously, as the year progresses, we may have more money, we may have less money. At the end of the day, it's not whether you have more or less, it's not going to be a drastic, probably difference. So, but this gets them where they can then go work on the marketing plan and the budget and all that fun stuff. We obviously haven't worked on our operating expenses, but you'll see their study there, and you'll see there's the Chiefs contract in here. And if it's my understanding that Chiefs contract is for basically the full amount. Is that correct? So if you opted not to do it, or maybe they didn't go to the Super Bowl, that might be less. So anyway, 2.5% is what FOC is recommending. You can either accept that recommendation for now, you can bump it up, you can bump it down. It's whatever the board would like to do, but that's their recommendation. So basically what would happen is we would say the marketing funds available would be a little over $6.9 million.
So moved.
Second.
The motion and second. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Well, thank you for putting that together. Let's see. Update on talent selection process. Heather, I'll turn that over to you.
All right, we had 9 entries for the call for talent for our song creation for our next 3-year campaign. And if we followed the rules of the RFP, we had 6 legitimate candidates who followed the rules of the RFP. And after speaking with Nick Cavell and Janet and our creative agency, Cultivator, we made the decision to work together with Cultivator and Azure agency of record to choose the talent to avoid any bias or favoritism shown by any NOC members, or it was a tricky one because we had some close ties in that room. So we have yet to announce the group to officially big to everyone, but we did choose the Petersons, the voice for
Okay. I don't know that we need to vote on that, but that's just kind of
Nice news to know.
an update. Okay, next item on the agenda, it says recommendation from MOC for creative campaign. I don't know that there is an official recommendation yet. Is that a fair assessment?
We're waiting for the research to come back.
So I think there was this indication of one that several people liked, but let's wait and see what the research says, and then we can go back to that. Okay, next item, recommendation from MOC for the 2026 KPIs. And also in this section, I sent an email out to the board a little earlier that part of our procedures document said not only KPIs, but just in general strategies and goals. And so I do want to discuss MOC, what they thought, but then I just want to get more input as well. So
I think Angela's gotten a note of how we determine KPIs.
Yes. What was recommended was that we would aim for a 3% growth in visitor spending, a 3% growth in tax revenue, a 5% growth in overall visitation and maximize the ROI.
Okay, so let's repeat that. I'm gonna write that down. 3% increase in visitor spending
And tax revenue.
and tax revenue. And then 5% increase in visitors. Okay.
Do we have any benchmark for the ROI that we can gauge this from, or I know it just says maximize?
I think we determine we don't have the research. We're getting the research from 2025 that would then help us through 2026 or 2027, but we don't have access to the past records to say, okay, are there we?
And maximizing ROI is something that we do with everything across the board. Just because we don't have a number to put next to anything, Janet can speak to this and her experience in the past, you always want to maximize ROI, and that comes to the way we attend travel shows. It's the way we attend a PR event. It's the way we get a journalist here and how we're hosting them, what we're doing with them. So we're always trying to maximize our return on investment at every turn. So it's kind of a, rather than being a standard KPI, it's more like our overarching objective and goal of what we want to do.
So, with that in mind, I sent a document to around the table here to the board. And so these are just some thoughts. But I did go back to the contract and I said, what does the contract say? And it has basically 4 items. One is increasing visitation to the district across all industries. And it lists them out: lodging, nightly rental, retail, restaurant, shows, attractions, etc. It then has increased vendor spending within the district across all industries. The same industries were listed. Increasing the visitation to the district, and then maximizing the effectiveness and efficiency of the district's marketing and administrative investments. And then the formula is listed there in the contract. I did not put that in this document. I know in the past in this board, we've actually had a really challenging time getting to numbers. Probably in the last couple of years, we've started to add numbers, which I think was a very good thing. And in some cases, we surpassed those numbers by big margins, other ones maybe not. So I think, and I just put some thoughts down here really to just start just some conversations and taking into account what MOC had also recommended. And so you'll see here, and once again, I'm happy to discuss this, is increased tourism tax of the city by 5% over inflation for both shows and attractions. And I'm like, on some of this thing, you could have a ton of goals and a ton of different numbers. And I said, at the end of the day, one of the things I'm like, if you can measure something or strive to get that, does that help other businesses? And so the example I would give there is if shows and attractions are doing really well, guess what? Probably hotels are doing really well, restaurants doing really well, retail's doing really well. And so you don't necessarily have to put every category in here. And part of the reason I put 5% over inflation is because to me, and if we're just growing at the rate of inflation, that's not good enough. We need to figure out how we steal market share and grow over inflation. And sometimes people are like, well, we maybe can't get that goal. Well, I think sometimes it's okay to do stretch goals, because then I think then we have the potential to try even harder. That doesn't mean we'll always get them. The other thing I put in here, and it's and even in putting it in here, I'm like, well, that kind of conflicts with that one I just mentioned, but I put achieve at least 100 million for a 5% increase, which is ever greater in theater revenue in 2026. The challenge is I have no idea what the revenue is this year. Although they're pacing well to be ahead of last year. I think the high we've ever been on theater revenue is 94 million, something in that ballpark. So I throw those out. Then I've got down here, just increase the TCED tax by 5%. Increase all accommodations by at least 5%. And even then, and really I'm looking at that revenue because you could say hotels could be up, night rental could be down, they could all one. And so that was just lumping them all together, including campgrounds. One of our items we have here is increasing new visitation to the district. And I think in the past, we have said we want to strive for a 25% new visitor model and 75% return. And I think we've hit that in the last year. I guess we'd have to go back and double check. Does anybody recall what last year's new visitor number was off the top of your head? So I guess I'll just stop there kind of on the KPIs and see what your reaction might be to some of those figures, because they are a little bit, in some cases, they're a little higher than what the MOC recommended. And in some cases, they're a little different. So.
You know, one of the first questions that comes to mind is obviously you always want to set good goals, and if you chase after it and miss it, you're in a better spot. But from a planning standpoint, if the CVB is set at a conservative rate for budgetary purposes, but then the net output's double that, is that line, or is this more of is this an expectation or a goal? Just because budget for we're going to go for a goal of 5% over inflation, but the actual budget to work with marketing is smaller than that. I don't know if I'm missing anything there, but
Well, it just means they got to do a better job driving with the money they have, getting more people here.
more with less.
Well, no, they're going to still have more. They would have, based on what they've done, the budget, they would have 2.5% more. And that's assuming that the number here is, what was that number last year?
6,648.
6.6. So that they will have more money. You know, the challenges have been is that we actually haven't been keeping up with inflation. That's the bigger challenge. But I also think Heather's getting really smart on creating efficiencies. And we heard about one of those today with MPI. Like, she's like, we've spent too much there. So I think she's a good negotiator. She's good at determining, are we spending this money wisely? So that would be the other aspect of this, is we have someone in the seat that I think can make our money go further. That's another way to look at it too. But that you don't have to agree with that number. That's why I'm just throwing it out here to say is, you know, what could it be?
These recommendations.
Anything else on KPIs? Self?
One of the questions that I had just listening in this morning after reviewing the contract, someone made the mention of revenue is revenue. If they're here, what's the difference between a new visitor and a recurring visitor? If the revenue is revenue, I was just curious what particular value a specific new visitor is as opposed to a returning visitor, if it's all contributing to just tax revenue, whether the dollar knows it's a new person or a returning customer. That's a pure a question of interest. I don't know. It's not substantive, but it was brought up and it kind of caught my attention this morning.
I think if you don't have new visitors, you got a big problem.
It's just a time frame, you know. But for over 36 years, I've seen the same group of people, and you know, eventually they're aware of what they're doing, whether they're coming to the lake, or you know, who can walk over our city still.
Where they move here.
I actually got a whole group that we brought this past week. But you know,
Where they move here.
from Illinois, Iowa, Texas, we brought them all, put them in a 7-bedroom house, and looking at the generational gap, and some of them were first time visitors, so replacing some of the older, ones that can eventually repeat. We'll get to that point, and they'll have the new coming in. So that's how we always looked at it, when we're looking at all the years of doing this. You know, get the newer ones in, you know, preferably younger, so they can continue like the 5 to 10 year repeat to this area before they reach that certain point where they spend it somewhere else. Or,
Yeah.
You know, and so that was our own stock of it, but.
Sure.
I think, Chris, when I look at we're talking about three. So were we up 6.8% to the year, right? So we're following above what our estimate, our goal was.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just.
So, you know, what I thought was interesting, MOC said 5% overall visitors, but they said in their recommendation was 3% visitor spend in tax revenue. So I would, like, for me, I'd be like, let's just make it, if I'm trying to come to a compromise here, because I want to push further. Could you go and say 5%? Could everybody agree to 5% on all those categories? 5% visitor spend, 5% tax revenue, 5% overall visitors. Can I get a buy into that or not?
Is it based in
I
data
know
or
what
is
you're
it?
trying to sell, so.
Yeah. Like,
There's
there's
gotta have a
obvious-
goal to shoot for,
Right.
okay?
But there's gotta be trends, right? Brance's been doing tourism for a really long time, and this political subdivision's been around for a minute. What has been the methodology for the last 2 decades, and how do you guys set incremental increases? It surely can't be reinvented every single year. One would think. I don't know.
Well, I'll
6
just tell you, in
months.
some cases, it wasn't set.
That is true.
So just there is no goal or standard.
Well, there people would push back on this in the past. Like, they did not want to put a number because they're like, well, if you don't hit that number, then it looks like we failed. I'm like, that's not how you, to me, that's not how you look at a goal.
So it'd be non-punitive if they missed this goal if it was set.
There's nothing in here that says there's any punitive.
Sure.
I mean, the more it raises, the more the revenue raises, the more the CVB gets. Like, that's how it's structured. So it's to their advantage to grow it more because they get more money, right? But I think if you set a low goal, I think the effort, and I've seen this in other organizations where if you set a low goal that everybody can achieve, the people don't push as hard. Where if you set a higher goal, and not a crate, I'm not saying crates, okay? But you set a higher goal, it just gives people intrinsically, I think, a little extra motivation and push. I'm just,
Is it relative to data though? Is my question. Like, would you call a 5% increase not out of line for tourism revenue increases in 2025?
well, I think it's a good question because today we're above that, but I can't tell you, I can't project the rest of the year.
Chris, are you saying 5% over inflation?
No. I'm just
That's
saying,
what you said on
I'm just
paper.
taking the 3s and making them 5. I'm kind of trying to compromise.
That's what.
Because Michelle said she liked MOC. I had my stuff here, so I'm trying to blend the two.
Yeah.
Because we already have 5% overall visitors. So if they said 5% overall visitors, why would we think that the spend and the tax revenue would be only 3 unless they're not the right kind of visitor? What do y'all want to?
Well, it doesn't, those numbers don't bother me. The biggest thing that really I pay attention to is the number of people that enter a building or a dock or a hotel. Because I tried to explain this to the 20, 30-year-olds who are starting to take over. It's like, yeah, you look like you're doing really good because you're up $300,000 so far for the summer. So how many people are you up? Because you already raised your prices, gas prices higher, so, 1 year, a couple of years ago, it was just crazy. The course calling everybody saying how wonderful it is. We're down in the number of people. It's just gas is $5 a gallon compared to $2 a gallon. You sell 300,000 gallons of fuel at $2. You have a tendency that your numbers go up, the tax revenue comes in, but the number of people that are actually here is is the biggest scare of me is, our numbers go up because hotel prices go up. Everybody's merchandising goes up and us, okay, we're doing our job. We went up 6% in revenue, but we technically really dropped, 4% of the people actually showing up here, just things are more expensive. So now I'm making them do physical counts. So I can tell you that 1,320 people showed up last Saturday. At one facility, in our district, I know that many people showed up that day. Cause that's what really matters. Because the prices of merchandise always goes up, expense goes up, so it makes it look like we're doing good, but are we really filling every room, filling every restaurant? By the number of people that are actually sitting there, not just their money, so. I look at things totally differently. So I don't look at what my numbers are showing, I'm looking at how many people I'm putting in seats.
I think your point is valid because that's, that's what we do in the hotel business, right? We look at occupancy. And so if you looked at, and I have Smith Travel here from 2024, according to them, last year, the occupancy was 49.8%. It went down 1%. Now, the good news was that price went up. See, and so price went up, that helped offset some of that occupancy decline.
Right.
And so that's why sometimes you want to have more than one KPI, because you'd like more people to be coming, spending more money and the whole bit. I mean, and if you look at this year, January through May, we're at 41.7% versus last year at 42.1. So it's been flat for three plus years on occupancy. But yeah, we want more people here.
Well, Silver Dollar City always had the standard, the goal, and the excellence. There was always 3 different levels and everything. Their success was rated on those 3 things. And I don't think that's a bad thing to have a stretch goal and to have, this is a minimum we expect and this is goal and this is excellence here.
So the question is, can we come to a resolution on this today and come up with whether you pass MOC, you tweak it a little bit, or do you guys want to think about this? I think the idea is that we get them what we'd like to see the KPIs, so that way they can focus the marketing plan on those KPIs.
Have they, so obviously you made this, right? Sure.
Yeah, these are, I'm going to talk about just some strategy and goals underneath here, but I figured I'd work on KPIs first.
Yeah. What I keep coming back to is like, you talked about the team and business. For me, like if I'm working with somebody, subcontractors, for example, I'm going to bring them into the mix. And I just don't know, like, if I haven't seen this until now, I don't know that the partners have seen it. And obviously they're the ones going to be executing it. So I don't know if it's out of line to ask where they land on it from the data side of things. Like, we obviously set the direction as the board,
Right.
But 7 of us aren't going to be personally fencing like this in the trenches. We're going to be asking them to be held accountable for this. So I don't know if it'd be unfair for them to comment on that as well. I don't know if they have a copy or seen any of this, but.
No, they don't have a copy, but of course, we did tweak the MOC tweak the 3, because you recommended 3 on everything, right, Heather?
We said 3,
Plus
3, and 5.
5 on overall mission.
But it wasn't.
It was 333 though, because
Okay.
he said we said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she bumped up 2 in the meeting.
Correct, I did. However, the document that you all are discussing, we have not been made privy to that. And since we are the ones doing the work, it would be nice to be considered a partner and the agency of record that you have contracted with to do the work and be brought in to have the full conversation. I believe also MOC would be they would benefit greatly from sharing from the same information that you all have just received that we have not.
So you think 5% visitor spend and 5% tax revenue is doable or out of line?
Sir, I think what we presented at MOC and the MOC all agreed upon were what we brought to the table today to the board.
I'm kind of with the mindset of moving to approve what the MOC's recommendation was. I'll make that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Further discussion? So that is 3% visitor spend, 3% tax revenue, 5% overall visitors, and maximize return on investment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, next item here, I wanted. It's talking a little bit about strategy and goals. And so, these are just, once again, ideas, and I think, opportunity to discuss, or send back to MOC or whatever. So one is aligning the city's budget and TCD as well as the convention center's budget to make sure they're being used efficiently and no duplication of efforts. I know we've talked about that in the past. Evaluate the overall group's budget breakdown to provide for the highest possible return for all stakeholders in the district and adjust accordingly. Determine the best demographics and psychographic targets based on season and adjust buys and content accordingly. We get feedback from our stakeholders. Maximize the use of the chief's official designation and any other benefit and all of applicable marketing through contract terms. Market Ozark Mountain Christmas prior to the start of November 1st. Continue with dates on the commercials. Determine the final date that should be used on commercials. So I know a couple of years ago we voted on that. I think the first year the city did this, they just picked January 7th, and I'm like, it's just weird to pick a January 7th because we need to look at when the date falls on, like arbitrarily falling on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not sure that makes the most sense. And I think that was conveyed to the city. But I think there's probably some work that needs to be done there. Launch the new website with stakeholder input. And then here, raise brand awareness of Branson by 3 points. I think if we go back and look at the data, and I might be wrong on this, but I think it's actually fallen. So I think we need to look at that, but somewhere around 45 to 48%, those might be wrong. And then I think as a board, we need to also say we need to look at what is the strategic breakdown of the media mix. So I think these are just things to think about and potentially pass back to MOC, and as they work on the marketing plan to consider. And so I don't know if anybody else has other strategies or goals that as they work on the plan that could be thought of or incorporated.
Is this something you want us to think about? Well, you just handed this to us. But
Yeah,
this is more of something we do in that mission or in the special meetings that we hold. Is there something that you're looking to pass?
Well, I think,
Because that's what we're here.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And part of this is, and I think what we've done in the past is we get the marketing plan, and after it's done, then we make comments.
Right.
And I think as a board, we need to provide.
So this is your input.
This
You're
is
bringing
yes,
it to us.
yes.
And so you want us to give you our input at a reasonable time period.
Well, and,
I mean,
and you
not
may have
read
your
this at one
you may
second
have
and
your
say,
own
hey.
strategies and goals,
Right.
but I think these were things to.
You just want us to have it. You don't want us to sit here and discuss it because we just.
No, you can. You can say, man, Chris, you're right on. Or you can say you don't know what you're talking about. You can absolutely. I mean,
I
that's
wouldn't do that. I was just interested because we just got our hand and I didn't know if we're gonna take up, because this is an hour or two.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that's what we're doing in this particular meeting was for just your points. And then we get all making our way.
well,
We bring them into a board meeting and say, okay, I want 2 hours on my idea.
well, but that's kind of what we were supposed to work on today. But if you wanted,
That's
like,
what
I don't want.
like it.
Here's the deal: is I don't want her to have a plan and then after it's all done, we come back with something totally different. You see what I'm saying?
She hates that.
She doesn't like that.
She's mean.
So I think as a her, again, we would also like to see a copy of what you all are looking at. It would be helpful to not have it just read to us, but to be part of the conversation. Great.
I'll be happy to.
If it's going to come from one board member, it would be great if each of you are all able to provide your input individually as well.
So I'm open to process, because I think the sooner we give you input and feedback, the better versus later. And that's been our problem in the past is things happen too late. And so I'm trying to get ahead of the team. Jen, do you have, do you have any
I
input or
think it
thought?
would be helpful if you guys got together, do whatever you do in some kind of a subcommittee. And then let us see it, let Heather see it, let her team work on it. And then we can say, if you bring to MSC, yay or nay on these strategies, or objectives work or don't work. So I think that just talking about it here with her listening, me listening, going on, we know what we're supposed to do with this because you haven't seen it. And
Right.
you don't know and all that. So I don't think it's fair to dump her with a bunch of stuff without her having the official capacity. So, yeah, this is what we can do, this we can't do, and that's fair. Yeah, that'd be fair to her. I know you guys have felt in the past that we've dumped the marketing plan on you without any kind of input, but now I'm kind of feeling like we're getting the backlash, that going this way, because I know one of the things that we've done, or how I grew up with Silver Dollar City, is we agreed upon marketing and leadership, agreed upon strategies and objectives and strategies. We agreed on that, and then marketing created a plan to get us there. So we could do that here. I think that would work.
So maybe the opportunity is to maybe when we have our special,
I just wrote that.
Yeah.
When we're having our
Our
vision
mission,
or
visions.
mission, we add strategic,
okay, I think that's a good idea.
what I was agreeing.
Okay. So here's what I would suggest is if you,
We need to have one, not just.
yeah, but if you have something else that you would like to put on here, let's get that out to the rest of the board.
Before vision.
Yes, get it there, and then we'll discuss it, then we'll look at that, and then we'll get it to Heather and others. Okay. Anything else on this? We're not. Okay, website discussion. Heather, do you want to give us an update on the website?
We're moving forward with Granicus, Simple View, and we're right on time. Things are going really well, and we hope to be able to show you something probably at the next MFC landing page and more details. That's going really well. Process is on time.
And then I think the other thing related to the website is just discussing the National Park Radio conversation. So I think for the record, this board did not approve that being on the front page. I don't recall us ever, but and so I know you have an agreement, correct me if I'm wrong, you have an agreement with them to give them some promotion of some sort.
We gave them a little bit of real estate on the homepage. We discussed this at MOC this morning, and part of that agreement, there hasn't been a penny of TCED dollars spent on National Parks Radio. And part of that agreement to use that song in the commercials that you just saw for this limited shoulder campaign that we created with our team not spending hundreds of thousands of dollars outsourcing the work. And that was what we did, was give them a little bit of real estate on the website. And to date, there have been 115 clicks to their Spotify link, and 20 of those are from our IP addresses here in this office. So under 100 clicks to that group, and it does not go to a competing theater, it does not go to a competing destination. And that was what we did. And yes, we made an executive decision because we used that song, which you've all heard at length. And we have also made an executive decision based on the feedback and the input that we have been receiving without someone coming to us and directly just saying that we have a concern, we would like a change. We have moved it to the media page. It is no longer on the homepage of the website as of today.
Thank you.
Oh, you know, a simple call really works. You know, we could have a simple conversation whenever you like about any concerns. And it's, we negotiated with this group to get a song to use, which I think we can all agree that the song works with our messaging and it delivers. And no, we did not use a Branson group because we didn't have the timeline to do that, but we are doing that for our next 3-year campaign. This little bridge campaign as a group with the song that's performing and it's working. And people are going to our website. In contrast, we have delivered 290,000 direct links to businesses in this destination from our website.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, moving on to the next item, review and discuss the legal RFP. So you've got that in your packet as well. It's not in this. It's, if I understand correctly, it's pretty similar to previous ones. It just updates it. And basically it seeks, proposals. They will be due November.
To decide that.
Okay, because it shows here November 26th. Yeah, so, okay,
We need to set the schedule for this.
okay.
We're
So,
going to be advertising the audit RFP in August. And it might make sense to just do our ads at the same time.
you combine them into one ad or do you have to have separate ads?
Have to have separate ads, but then they run the same schedule and do what we're doing. Those two things in this particular meeting.
I mean, is there any reason we couldn't do everything in the same time frame? So I would entertain a motion to approve it with the same time frame as the audit.
So audit and legal would be in the same timeframe, both RFPs.
Yes.
So moved.
Motion and a second, any other discussion?
Just timing on all that, administratively, Angela, or if you want to answer it, if you can, or, Kirk, any issues with stacking these up or a non-issue?
Well, she'll collect, we'll discuss. You're not gonna have hundreds of
Right.
entries, when we've dealt with this. We've had some legal discussions. Patrick and I had a discussion before the meeting. We've talked to 2 other governmental law firms who have a specialty in this. But again, those are just preemptive discussions to say, what's your interest level? But, you know, once you post something or put out a press release with it, you could potentially pick up multiples. But if they hit the criteria, it's, you know, somewhat the talent thing, you know, you think hundreds of people are gonna apply for these kind of things, but I don't know that some people would want this kind of business and some people don't have this expertise. So, I mean, we'll be doing the interviewing and the chit chat and the collecting and all the details, and we'll turn that information to you all.
It probably goes without saying, doing it this way gets it done faster than doing it.
Well, you know, when you look at legal and you look at financial, you talk very similar levels of professionalism.
Right.
I think you could do, you would certainly go to closed session for the contract talk on it. But, you know, where we have, you know, does Neil and Newman stay on board with us and adjust their RFP? Does someone else come along that we haven't dealt with? So I think it needs to be a part of our culture. What we learned yesterday, you know, Patrick's a very valuable type of person, Does he fit with our culture? My answer would be yes, the professional in the details. But we also, we have an expectation that we want to also make sure that she's protected in what she has to deal with on a monthly basis. And that's the emphasis where we can't sit around and wait. We have to have the financials ready for you. We have to have the legal ready for you when you're ready to vote, not to prolong things and kick it down the street any further. So we will be diligent about it because this is a good time of year for us to start collecting that kind of thing.
Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, member updates. Dennis, we'll start with you first.
Okay. I apologize for my lack of diligence to be here, but it's hard to be in a meeting here and then be in the hospital for 3 weeks flat on your back. So, and I got out of that bed and could not even stand up. I had no muscle. So it's been a fight, but I do thank you for your concerns and your prayers, and everybody has really been great. I am back to at least functioning. I'm not there yet, but I'm going to get there. So I do thank you for that, Kirk. I thank you particularly. He ventured even into the hospital to see me, so I appreciate that very much. So thanks a lot, everybody, and I look forward to being much greater involved. Thank you.
I just have something super quick. Logan McGuire from 417 Magazine has been doing snippets for the ladies who launch, and she's had Laura on her LinkedIn and talked to her, and she's been promoting, this conference that's a pretty big deal. It's gotten bigger, too big for Springfield. So being in Branson, I know you being men don't get it, but it's a really big deal for the ladies. And it brings a lot of attention here. So I think it'll be good for the convention center. I think it'll be good for meetings in town. There's other groups like this, women in manufacturing, women in marketing. And I think Branson will go up from it.
Awesome. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Sue, I'll come over to you.
I just want to say how excited I am about the cultivator presentation today. Having the meeting a couple of months ago with them and really getting a chance to express everything there is about our destination that we felt was important. When they did the summary at the very beginning of the presentation, it's like they did listen, they got it, and they're trying to implement what we're asking for. And I was just really, really pleased with that today.
Okay.
Alex? Yeah, so I think since the last time we met, I had a chance to go and accompany Congressman Burleson on a tour of the area. Really, really cool just to see how much stuff we have in the tourism district and in the immediate area surrounding it. We're just very blessed to have the types of businesses that we have, and just the great people that man all those businesses. And I'm again just grateful for those partners. Something that was interesting about yesterday's session was going over, mission, vision, strategy, and letting, John talk about, governance, good governance. And this kind of rung true to me a little bit just because of my past. He used the example of a helicopter perspective on governance. And so staying out of the weeds or the jungle, if you will. And as a former aviator, make this selfish plug there, I greatly respect that. And, we have to do our due diligence. We have to strike a balance between being a rubber stamp board and enabling empowerment to happen. So I can see that in the 6 short months that I've been here, there has been a spirit of cooperation and collaboration. Nothing has been perfect. Some of the things that have happened didn't need to happen the way they happened, but those have occurred. We're moving forward, but we're trajecting in the right direction. And our numbers, we could be, instead of being 6% ahead, we could be flat or behind. And so I'm going to take that as a huge blessing for us. And then we're just going to keep making it better for everybody. So thank you for each of you and what you're doing to help make that happen. And I really felt, again, I'm super grateful for the opportunity to just get professional development on being above bar and serving the community at large. do these sessions and being intentional about mission and vision and strategy.
Right. Your next.
I just want to thank you for you being here and the information you brought. You know, I've been here a long time, doing a lot of stuff, and I know who you are. The discussion, me and Sonny, we've been really focused on wanting, American Family Channel. It's not just for seniors, because I'm not a senior yet, but I've been there since the creation of that one. Big Hallmark guy, the opportunities that you brought forward, and it didn't fall on deaf ears. And so I wanted you to know that, because I'm gonna fight to make sure we get on the Family Channel and get our commercials there. Because there is so much potential for, besides with Kansas City being a Hallmark destination, I would love to see us become the American Family Channel's Christmas, where we meet their stars in downtown Branson, or just over to the Bell, by the way it looks and the way they can decorate that area there. But for that group to start coming here every fall, like Kansas City, because that was something we were thinking about that year before Kansas City got it. And then all of a sudden here they show up that when we started talking about it real seriously, all of a sudden Hallmark signs a deal with Kansas City to bring their shows, produce their, their premiere being held there, to meet the actors. And so our opportunity is that American Family Channel. So brands, because they're more aligned with the faith and the family by a long shot, by the way what they show on the TV. But yeah, so it didn't fall deaf ears. I just want to thank you for being here.
I have to, it probably won't go anywhere, but it does cover a lot of the things that you just said. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, are you done?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 3 minutes.
Did you time it?
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Um,
You know.
okay. I think a couple things I want to comment on. One, I was in a meeting a couple days ago where they basically talked about TCB, getting into the weeds of per diem and color choice and fonts, and I didn't say anything, but I feel like we use that in the weeds way too much. And I think 99% of the time, and if you looked at the plan, 99% of the time, we're not even dealing with any of the plan. So when we bring up one or two items, we're typically trying to do that to make it better. And I think we have to remember that when we sometimes when there's collaboration and there's more input, it gets better. And I think, and Kirk mentioned this earlier in the wording, and I thought I got it written down, but is it the best, right? And I think that's a good thing for us to think about. But is it the best? And in some cases, if it's not, it's okay to say, how do we make this better? And I don't think that's necessarily nitpicking. It's just, hey, we saw something, and if it's the 1%, it's okay. And so I guess I would look at this as input is healthy, input is good, collaboration is good. And that doesn't mean we always have to agree. Like, we don't, and that's okay. But let's figure out how we get to the solution where we do agree. And so I just want to make that comment as it relates to that. The other thing, actually, you know what? I got to go back into new business tip, but we'll bring that up in just a sec because I missed it. Anyway, I do appreciate everybody's work because I know there's a lot going on. I know you guys are all involved in stuff, and so I do appreciate that. The other thing I do want to mention is the city's TCD application. It's like what, July 2nd or 3rd? You guys know, somewhere around in there, the 2nd. So if you know qualified people, and the thing we talked about yesterday, we talked about the right motives, character and competency, results, and just good interpersonal skills. Those are 4 characteristics of a board member. John did much better than I just did, but those were my notes I had here. So if you have recommendations, share with them that that those applications are open and they need to get them into the city, because I'm gonna guess by our next board meeting, we'll have a new board. Is that a fair assessment? I'm just kind of looking, okay, thank you. And so, there's gonna be a lot of work coming up here shortly. So, okay, my 3 minutes are probably up. I'm gonna stop, but I'm gonna come back to TIF because that was on the agenda. Nice.
Sorry, 2 minutes.
Huh?
You were 2 minutes and 50
I had
seconds.
10.
Yeah.
Okay, so the TIF is coming up, and I asked the question, does that affect the marketing dollars? And at first I was hopeful it wasn't, but I have now been told that it will take 100% of the marketing dollars in that area. And it will also take the city's tourism tax. The way I understand it, and I haven't read the huge, big document that they have. But the way I understand it, is that there will be a meeting in, I think, about 3 weeks, for the TIF commission. The TIF commission can make whatever recommendation they want. They can say it's a great idea. They can say we want to tweak it. They can say we don't want to do it. And then it goes to the board of aldermen. The board of aldermen then can do whatever they want as well. We have a representative that represents many of the tax entities, and what I've been told is it's Cody Fenton, correct? And so he's an attorney, former alderman. And so if we have input that we want to give him, we would need to do that within the next 3 weeks. And if that input is, hey, take out the tax dollars or the tourism or the TCED tax dollars and don't make that part of the TIF, we can do that. We cannot do anything. Huh?
Doesn't the state is the one who tells which businesses that are in this district that they have to pay 1%? So there's this, seeing how they wrote the legislature that created the tax board, how do we say, hey, this group of people aren't gonna have to pay that tax?
Well, I don't,
How's that work?
it's not up to us. I think it would be
I don't
just
know how
our,
that works.
it would just be our recommendation.
The
Like-
the tax still gets paid, collected and paid.
Okay.
Yeah, it
So
still
it's-
gets paid. The question is whether we, like today, correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, we get half of the TIF for Branson Hills and Branson Lake.
Yeah, and I think that when you go through the documents, I sent you the email.
There's a lot. I
There's
haven't
a
had
lot.
time to go through it all yet.
On my email, I put a summary of where some key documents were, and it's those last 3 pages, like 109, 121, and 133, that shows the impact that's specifically to the tourism district. So I think it's 50%. I think.
Well,
see 100,
I,
but read it.
when I got the email from the city and it said it took it all, and I sent another email back saying, is it 100% or 50? Because I was thinking maybe it was the same, and I had not, prior to this meeting, I had not got an email back.
Every reading.
So I guess my question is, do we, maybe this second meeting we're gonna do, do we discuss it more in there? Do we determine at that point whether we want to take a position as it relates to our taxes? I don't think we can really, I don't think it's our purview to talk about everybody else's taxes, but if they're gonna take TCD tax,
A work session really isn't a place for a decision to be made. Is that correct, Brad? We don't make decisions. in
We
work
don't make
sessions.
decisions, but we get to a decision. The workplace is perfect for that kind of conversation. Because once you get to that, then you bring it into the actual board meeting without the 3 hours of litigations or whatever you want to call it over it. But yeah, that's a perfect place for it, because that's the definition of work session. Is that you hammer it out. You just can't make something that affects the district. You can't make a motion and pass it in a work session. It then has to go to your actual regular meeting.
so the problem you would have here is your next regular meeting is after this.
Or you can call special, you can
just call it.
You can
special.
actually call a special meeting after the work session, as long as it's posted for 24 hours. You can do whatever you want, as long as you post it for 24 hours. So if we were having that meeting for a work session, just to hammer it out without following, because all it is an opportunity to gather with quorum without parliamentary procedure. That's the work session. And then you can literally have a regular meeting, of the board, as long as it's posted 24 hours prior, right after the work session. So then you can sit in and actually follow through with parliamentary procedure and actually do your meeting and make the motion and pass it and do all that, because now you can do business. Am I correct on all that?
You were correct on all of that.
30 years of that stuff. You gotta have it down. But yeah, that's why you don't have to wait till the next meeting. Even after a vision meeting, or a mission and vision, you can actually have a regular meeting afterwards as long.
Right.
Tomorrow, as long as you posted it now, we don't show up till 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Or you can have a work session before your meeting.
That's what you said. Well, you could,
I think that's what-
instead of calling a special meeting, you could have it come in
And
and
before our regular meeting.
yeah. We just did ours a couple days different, just to give the guys a break so they didn't turn into 10-hour meetings.
So
What's the precedent though for, and there may not be one, but it seems as if we like to respect running marketing through marketing oversight and financials through the financial oversight. It was, for the record, not lost on anybody. It was mentioned during the financial oversight committee and didn't go anywhere. So just as a matter of fact, that did
Well, it
happen.
wasn't on the agenda technically either, even though I mentioned it. And I did bring it up after.
And it wasn't a
Yeah.
passing. It was an ongoing discussion for a few moments. So I'm good with it if there's like a standard. And are you gonna consult financial oversight versus gonna be just the board's view due to timing and through a workshop and then into a special meeting? Since that was, if that hadn't happened, I'd feel a little bit different about it, but you consulted the financial oversight committee and then it didn't really take off.
Well, we kind of gotten off topic because we started to talk about it.
Sure. The Board of Aldermen meet July 15th at 5:30. If that gives you any guidance as to when you might want to, if you do want to schedule a work study and or special meeting and or whatever.
That's the TIP commission, right? 5:30 of July 15th.
Yes.
Yep.
Excuse me, Jeff.
Okay, I know you guys have to go. Do you have any input on this?
No, but I'd like to just be careful.
Okay.
We do some.
Okay.
Do we need to,
You gotta go.
I don't know if you want to wait till you close the meeting.
What else do we have? Nothing else on the actual agenda. Oh, well, we were gonna do the personnel, but I think we will wait on personnel. Just to give you an update, I got everybody's feedback. We sent that to legal. Legal sent stuff back, but the document that you have doesn't necessarily, I don't think, has all the changes that were requested. And so then the question becomes, because some of you submitted some things, it's like whether we agree to those changes or not. So, yeah, so I'm just giving you an update on the personnel thing. So I think we're gonna, are you guys okay with tabling that? Can I have somebody make just a motion to table it to the next meeting?
The table, the discussion, personnel handbook until the next board meeting.
Second.
Motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, I think at this time we have on here closed session to discuss contractual issues.
Something we didn't discuss in the agenda, so I can help you. It's not.
We also have closed minutes, right?
Yeah. They can wait or. They don't have to be closed minutes today.
I'd say let's go ahead
I'll
and,
make sure the other two.
let's go ahead and do it real quick. We're okay with that?
So you need a motion to adjourn?
Well, I just say make the motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to contractual issues.
That's listed on the agenda, so
They're not really
I just-
contractual issues.
yeah.
Minutes are not contractual issues.
They're really not.
So you can always, and you don't have to approve, you can wait till You
Yeah,
can put minutes there for 3 months, it don't matter.
Yeah,
Bye, guys. See you
Yeah.
later.
Bye.
And did the last closed session even concern contractual issues?
Right.
You did?
Thank you.
I think I would like to go into closed session, just if we could briefly.
On dealing with a contract.
Yeah.
Okay. But that would have to be,
yeah, if it's anything outside of that, I'm publicly announcing, and objecting going into
Right.
closed session to cover me by statute.
to discuss contract.
But we can, in contractual issues, we can talk about our contracts.
Sure.
That's the only thing.
Yeah, correct.
That's, we're limited to that one category of
Yeah,
the
unless
six
you
records
add
under
more.
under sunshine.
So, yeah, so if you have a contractual issue, absolutely. That's why I always list like
I-
5 or
well,
6
I-
different things and then, if you don't have it, you
Yeah.
need it.
Okay, so can we make a motion to that effect?
A motion to go into closed session with a 5-minute break prior to closed session for reference on contractual issues.
Pursuant to RSMO.
Yeah, that's it's always written there, so I don't have to repeat it.
Okay,
It says, it's actually a document that goes in the files.
Okay.
Yeah, but yes.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
It's a roll call vote
Roll
for
call.
executive session.
Brett,
Yes.
Chris.
Yeah.
Sue,
Yes.
Alex.
Yes.
Now, if we take any votes, because we only have 4 of our 7 present, they